Welcome and thanks for joining us today. My guest is Andrea Thompson, CEO of the Dakota State University Applied Research Corporation. Andrea, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Drew. Very nice to meet you.
Absolutely. So, to just start out, for anyone who might not know what the Dakota State University Applied Research Corporation, or I understand DARC for short, actually does, can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, dark solving some of our nation's wicked problems in the cybersecurity field. As you've known, we'll probably talk about later in the interview about the shortages we have. And so, one of the value propositions, one of the things that really makes us special is one, we're a small business, not for profit, which is unique in this space. Also, we're affiliated with Dakota State University, one of our nation's top cybersecurity universities. So we're affiliated with the university, but we're separate from, which provides us with a little bit more agility, moving at the speed of business and technology. So that talent pipeline back to Dakota State is really what sets us apart from some of the other small businesses and not-for-profits.
And I understand that you are a former administration official, so tell me a little bit more about your background and then what prompted you to come to Dark to lead.
Well, I will give you the short version because I am old. I've walked many miles. But the short version is born and raised in South Dakota. Went through the University of South Dakota in ROTC. So chose to serve my country. Ended up doing it for 28 years. It's a better story for another time. But I went in for 4 to 5 years, and 28 years later, left as a career intelligence officer. So it's always for me. It's always about service to nation, service to something bigger than yourself, and leadership, and being around people that you learn from, those positive role models, whether it was professors, Army leaders. I transitioned out of the Army, worked for the McChrystal Group. So again, one of my mentors, then was asked to serve in a government role. So it was again a great personal and professional challenge, but took it as a call to service back for my country. Did that for about 3 years, and then left to join industry again, back to corporate culture and leaders. I won't name drop. You can see who I used to work for, but an amazing aerospace and defense company with an incredible CEO doing important work for our country. And so was out in the DC area. And President Jose Marie Griffiths, the Dakota State University president, reached out about this opportunity. I'll be quite candid. I said no initially. Was living out on the East Coast, and I didn't think it was time to come back home. But life presents you with opportunities for a reason. And again, great leaders. Dakota State is filled with great leaders, mentors, role model, and back to service to country. We're short 700 to 750,000 cybersecurity experts in our country. And Dakota State's happy, part of that solution and providing in students and technologies. So said yes, CEO of a startup, which not many people get to do. And it was an exciting opportunity, and just really happy to be home. And more so the challenge that lies ahead on solving these problems with some of the world's best cybersecurity engineers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just speaking back to that shortage that you spoke about, it's a huge one. And I know that's been a really big challenge for all employers, whether it's federal agencies or the private sector. But I want to focus a little bit more specifically on the federal sector and the cyber recruitment there. So, what have you seen through your experience, either at Dark or elsewhere, about the challenges that agencies are facing when trying to recruit a cyber workforce? And where does Dark fit into that picture of trying to help agencies address those challenges?
Yeah, two great questions, Drew. So one, back to the talent shortage, when you're short 700 to 750,000 cyber experts, those experts have options. So they have an option to go to probably a better high-paying position in industry, or service to country and maybe not make as much money, but perhaps make a bigger difference in government. So that's the dichotomy. I would challenge folks that you can do both. You can go into industry and then go into the State Department, into the Defense Department, into the FBI, DHS, and others, and both win, right? The government gets stronger with our experts, and our industry gets stronger, learning more about policy, a little bit about politics, and working with our international partners. So you need to be able to do both. How DARK is helping solve that Again, one, providing that talent, recruiting, not only from Dakota State and others, bringing that talent to South Dakota. We'll talk a little bit about the economic benefits of that. But one, how we partner with government agencies. So I would challenge the government agencies, right, that lead those contracts, whether it's in the defense space or other federal space. You need to take a little bit of risk. I think that government, we have a tendency to get in routine. I speak from my time at the State Department and time in the Department of Defense. Most of my adult life has been in those two agencies, not known for agility, not known for doing something new. And so we have a tendency to recruit from the same schools, subcontract with the same companies, the big defense primes. But much of our innovation is now coming from those smaller universities and small and medium enterprises. So I would say from the federal leaders watching this today, look to some geographic diversity. Your heartland, the Midwest, is an excellent source to not only provide talent to work in your agencies, but with the small, medium, and some large companies to help solve your problems as well.
Absolutely. And I do think that diversity challenge and question mark really is a big one for the cyber workforce, both, in the private sector and in the federal government. So from your perspective, do you have any recommendations for how agencies can start taking more risks? How can they better recruit and retain more diverse cyber talent?
Well, I may be a bit biased, but I think one of the first steps is step out of the beltway. We have a tendency to kind of look within that internal ecosystem, and for many federal agencies, obviously in other locations, but I think a lot of folks kind of get into that kind of beltway mentality, and so I know, and it's hard. I've been a senior leader. I was Undersecretary of State. Taking time to get on the road and visit those sites takes time and planning, but it's incredibly important for our country to be able to look at whole of country solutions and whole of global solutions. My sense is we're not going to fill the shortfall organically. We can't grow enough and train enough cybersecurity experts. We're going to have to recruit from partners and allies. And so that's another piece. That's hard. But if we want to outpace and win the next war, whether it be China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, we've got to work as a collective. We've got to work as an alliance, both an alliance within our own country and alliance outside. So for those federal agencies, again, and we're here, and right, I think COVID showed us that we can do things remotely, right? We're having this interview in different parts of the country. We can solve cyber challenges remotely. We have locations across the US and the globe. We've shown that in combat. We've shown that in peacetime. So I think there's some things to be learned from using technology and just taking, again, a little bit of risk and leaning forward in some of how we do operations within the federal government.
Absolutely. And aside from recruiting from more diverse locations, I know another way that agencies have been trying to tackle some of those workforce gaps and challenges for cybersecurity skills is through upskilling. So, can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like? Is that something that is possible to make a difference for some of these cyber workforce gaps? And is dark, how does dark fit into that picture as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, great point on as the world evolves, we must also evolve. And so there are jobs that, quite frankly, have will transition, but the folks still are intellectually ready to go, hungry for work. And so I would just challenge folks. There are programs. Dakota State University has a wealth of opportunities where you can come in if you have undergraduate in one degree. You can bolster that. You can, for folks that have their undergrad, we can get master's degrees. There's certifications that can be done where you can do some of the IT services within companies. So I would just share with folks that are maybe looking to do something different is to take a look at Dakota State University, look at our programs. The professors of practice that we bring in are some of the world class in what they do. So upskilling is critically important, again, selfishly, not only for Dakota State, but for our country. And so take a look at what's available. Time is now, and the options are out there for you.
And just digging in on that a little bit further, if agencies, are trying to broaden recruitment and broaden the way that they're bringing in or developing cyber talent, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see agencies potentially facing, whether it's upskilling, whether it's recruiting new talent? What are kind of the biggest challenges there?
Well, I've seen in the past is sometimes you're competing for the same pool of candidates. And so again, I've seen this more in the foreign service and folks going into international policy, that the companies are going to the same schools for that base. Again, back to expanding your talent pool and look a little bit further than some of the traditional East Coast schools and some of the West Coast schools. And so my sense is we'll be able to diversify by reaching out to those schools, how DARK is helping with that. Again, we're partnering also with other folks in the region. So we're not just working in isolation. As soon as the interview ends, I'm heading up to North Dakota for a UAS conference, working and collaborating with the experts in the field in the Midwest, working and collaborating with our international partners. Dakota State has a memorandum of agreement with one of our Australian universities. That's how we're going to solve this problem. There are students that want to study abroad. There are students that want to work in different locations. And so when you look at whether it's a young person here in the US or a young person internationally, you can have those opportunities at DARK, you can have those opportunities at Dakota State.
I want to talk, broaden the view that we're taking here and talk a little bit about contracting, specifically federal contracting and how that comes into the picture as well. So, can you tell me about some of the advantages or disadvantages that small businesses have when they're trying to partner with government on that cyber talent?
You had a great question, Drew. And again, an incredibly important topic for as the evolution of our national security space on how we always solve those problems. So again, back to the startups, which is hard to crack. Be quite candid, it's hard to crack into the federal contracting space. It is so labor intensive in the we don't have a contracting office of 20 to 50 people. We don't have the financial office of 20 to 50 people when you're a small company or even a medium company. It is a unique language. Not to make light of it, but I said it's like speaking Mandarin Chinese. You can't just learn it in a year or two. And there's a wealth of information out there, but it is a bit of a challenge if you don't know where to start. It's overwhelming, I think, if you've not been in that space. So I would share but there are great programs. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, has excellent resources on businesses and how to do it. The accelerators, the Apex accelerators in our state, helping to get, again, access and contracting. So I would just challenge other small businesses to look for those resources in your communities, look for the resources online, and challenge on the other side of the spectrum, the federal government on making it digestible. I tell folks, it's like when I explain things in the military, we use a lot of acronyms, and you tell folks like, pretend like you're talking to your parents, right? Explain it to someone that may have no idea of what military intelligence does. Well, in this case, what cybersecurity does. So for our federal government, just keep that in mind. Can help bolster you, but cracking into that network is challenging. The advantages of the small business is, again, the speed with which we can move. If we get a call from another, maybe say a large prime or a company that we're partnering with, that say, can you do this? We help, we have a problem to solve for one of the federal agencies. We can move very quickly. I can make that decision. I don't have to vet that with, 8 levels of leadership through the company. So we can commit and move out on solving that problem. So there's a spectrum of how to get into the federal contracting space. That is an area where there has been improvements. I mean, the federal government recognizes that it's cumbersome. There's been great work done, everything from the futures commands that are being stood up. I'm most familiar with the Army, but there's others. The labs that are being stood up in the federal government as just one of the great solutions, and what we continue to focus on that. And we can always do more. I appreciate the work that the federal government's doing. They recognize it's a behemoth, and we need to be able to put some processes into place to move quickly.
Absolutely. I do want to switch gears a little bit here as well, Andrea, to talk about DARK and some of their resources too. I understand we talked a little bit about some of the resources it has for people who are interested in a career in in cyber or technology. So what other resources does DARK offer to those who are seeking a career or potentially moving into government?
Sure. So what I would offer for DARK, and come check out our website. We're always looking for great talent. We do, again, those kind of foundational elements of cybersecurity. We can do unclassified work all the way up to highly classified work, which gives us, again, gives us options for across the federal agencies, whether it's an open source problem or you need a highly classified problem. We have both the facilities, but more importantly, the talent to do that. Penetration testing, malware analysis, secure software development. Again, those foundational elements that touches everybody's network. And malware, people trying to get into your network. Everyone has that problem. Every federal agency has that threat vector. Every day is getting attacked. So we're helping to solve that. So what I would say to young people looking to get into that space, come check us out. Conversely, go work, get an experience in the federal government. Do I want an entire team of 24-year-old folks coming out of university or graduate schools? I don't. I need that diversity of talent as well. So go work at the new digital policy at the State Department, in the Defense Department. Go do digital forensics in the FBI. Go help with election security at CISA. We need those life experiences. Then you come back and come to DARK and build upon that. So what I would tell someone coming into the field, just get that experience. Dakota State, one of the best programs in the nation. Again, and I can talk about value proposition, but from the price point to the faculty, to the internship opportunities, to the almost 100% placement rate, I tell parents, we have an almost 100% placement rate for employment. I think every parent wants that for their child, a great education, and then subsequently to get the job. So seek that out and seek out mentors. We're always happy to do phone calls, take visits. So if a young person's like, what do you think? Reach out to us. We've got great career counselors at Dakota State. If it's a young person looking to come to DARK, my CEO and I are always happy to take those calls. We'll put you in contact with one of our cyber research engineers that can tell you about the day in the life at doing cyber research. So that's how we're going to grow this ecosystem.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this a little bit early on in that answer too, but this idea that, it's important for some of those people who are seeking careers in cyber to, get a diversity or a range of experiences, whether that's in government or private sector or a combination of the two. So can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what makes agencies or the federal government different from other employers who are trying to recruit cyber talent? And are there things that they can do to try to, encourage more people to take federal jobs?
Yes, I mean, my sense is, again, I'm not the young person in the career anymore. So looking through the lens of maybe someone that's walked a few miles. But what I would tell you is our nation's federal agencies are doing exciting work. Much of it you don't get to read about. As a career intelligence officer, I tell folks like amazing things to keep our nation safe that you'll never be able to talk about. So if that sounds exciting to you as a young person, if you're like, what does this mean? Again, reach out. I've not ever been in an organization, whether it was the State Department, the U.S. Army, working with intelligence agencies. I've never met someone that's like, nope, I don't have the time to mentor. I don't have the time to answer that question. Folks want to put a hand out and bring up the next generation. So doing exciting work. Again, where we do need to make greater strides, I think, is adding options for folks to come into government and go out to private industry and come back in, or vice versa. I know we talk about it. It is a challenge. It is much harder to do than it is to be like, oh, sure, let's just cross-pollinate with some of our talent here. But my sense is the better we get with that process, where a young person can start at DARK and then go into a cybercom and then come back to DARK or another company, the more agile we get in sharing that talent, the better we'll be as a nation.
And just, with the understanding that Dark isn't necessarily doing this direct work, but DSU, I know it's part of DSU overall, or part of that overall ecosystem. So just with your relationship with DSU now, can you talk a little bit about how the university is preparing existing or future STEM employees for their careers, and just really changing that field?
Absolutely. I mean, the programs at Dakota State, it goes from kindergarten to PhD. some of the camps that cyber. So when we talk about diversity, the thousands and thousands of young girls that are now getting trained on campus in the summer. The governor's cyber academy, young students in high school that are now getting credits for college level courses while they're in high school. The outreach from the university professors, doing classes in our high schools, doing classes in the community. Uh, Small business grants. Last year, over 100 small businesses across the state got a free look, if you will. Cybersecurity experts came in, partnered with these companies to show vulnerabilities in their network and how to fix it. So, growing the next generation, internships. We have the career fair, have the career fair twice a year, bringing companies onto campus. And other things that Dakota State is doing. It's one of only 10 universities in the country that has all three centers of excellence for the National Security Agency and the Department of Homeland Security. Most people don't know that. We humble brag. We're kind of modest Midwesterners, but the work that's being done at Dakota State nationally. Dakota State and Army Cyber. The Army Cyber signed their first educational partnership agreement. It's with Dakota State University. So I would challenge with young people, again, there are opportunities and these can be remote as well. So if you're living on the coast, if you're an international student, check out the university, check out DARC. There are going to be opportunities for you to grow and learn. And again, there's opportunities where you want to do offensive cyber. Well, there's folks that come into the program, and there's a program of cyber leadership and intelligence at DSU. It's cyber policy. So it is full spectrum, not only ones and zeros, but the important policy work that helps guide that as well.
Absolutely. And just wrapping up here very briefly, Andrea, how can federal agencies partner with private sector organizations to address some of these cyber workforce issues that we're continuing to see in the field here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll finish like I started is get out of the office, look to other sources of recruitment, lean a little bit forward, take a few more risks, reach out to industry at all scale, from small to the large primes, and communicate and share. There's a lot of information out there. Most of it is valuable, some of it is not. So really refine your messaging from a federal agency and send your agents of change out into the field. Come to the career fairs, come to campus visits, come to the large conferences where a lot of the companies come to. So we're better together. I tell people that all the time. We are better together. And so the smalls are looking to help the federal agencies, and I know the federal agencies are looking to bring more diverse resources into the government. So we'll keep pushing. We must keep pushing. Our adversaries are, and sharing that information and really working for Team USA and solving these incredibly important cybersecurity challenges. It's an exciting place to be.
Well, absolutely, Andrea. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great talking to you.
No, thanks, Drew. Thanks for the opportunity.
Andrea Thompson is CEO of the Dakota State University Applied Research Corporation, or DARC. I'm reporter Drew Friedman, and you're listening to Federal News Network Career Guide. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Dakota State University.